Last weekend, Joe Biden went on 60 Minutes to talk about the recent conflict in Israel. Now, I watched this interview, and I was shocked that they did not ask any tough questions. I cannot believe this. There is a war going on in Israel, and you have the President of the United States, and you don't ask him a single tough question? Why? Well, we're going to ask the tough questions here this week on Wolves in Finance. Let me just state for the record, my channel is not sponsored by anyone. I'm a small channel. I'm completely independent. I'm only supported by memberships from viewers just like you. I report just the facts on the stories that you need to know. Many of us have been watching the conflict in Israel closely. On October 7th, Hamas-led forces attacked Israel's territory and killed and kidnapped civilians. They are now holding around 200 civilians as hostages in the Gaza Strip. The latest count is that more than 1,400 Israeli citizens are dead, including 32 U.S. citizens. More than the total amount previously killed in any of Israel's conflicts since the 1950s. So when Joe Biden went on 60 Minutes, I was interested. I wanted to know what he had to say about all of this. I was shocked. Joe Biden explained that he spoke with 14 American families who currently have family members who are being held hostage. I repeat, Americans are currently being held hostage in Gaza. He said, "The President of the United States cares deeply about what has happened. We are going to do everything in our power to get them home if we can find them." This was the whole theme of the interview. Joe Biden claims he is doing everything in his power to resolve the situation. Really? I'm not convinced. Let's unpack this statement. Is he really doing everything in his power, or is that a lie? I am an accountant, and something that I always say is follow the money. If you want to know someone's true intentions, take a look at where they're putting their money. So where is Joe Biden putting his money? Many of you have probably heard that he is giving $6 billion to Iran. This is important because Iran is funding Hamas, who is attacking Israel. Since the fighting started in Israel, Joe Biden has temporarily frozen the money to Iran. But I want to break this down because I don't think a lot of people know the full extent of what is going on. Let's go back to when Obama was president. Obama faced a lot of criticism for the deal he made with Iran. He gave them $1.7 billion in 2016 in exchange for several American prisoners. Obama also lifted sanctions on Iran that some estimates say generated $150 billion for Iran. Then Trump became president. He could not stop the payments that Obama already gave to Iran, but he put the sanctions back in place. In addition, Trump cut $200 million of aid payments to Palestine. For some reason, the U.S. had been providing aid to both Israel and Palestine. Trump stopped the payments to Palestine. Then Biden became president. He reversed Trump's policy and once again began sending money to Palestine and increased it to $360 million in 2021. Then came the $6 billion. Biden arranged a deal where he would send Iran $6 billion in exchange for 5 American prisoners. It is important to note that the $6 billion is Iran's own money. It's not like America is giving Iran $6 billion. Iran sent oil shipments to South Korea. South Korea owed $6 billion to Iran, but could not transfer the money internationally due to the sanctions against Iran. The U.S. brokered a deal where South Korea could send the money to Qatar in the Middle East, and then Iran could get the money from there. So this is really about the U.S. lifting $6 billion of sanctions from Iran. The more I find out about this $6 billion, the more infuriated I become. Who were these prisoners? Were they soldiers? Were they spies? No. It turns out they were average citizens, including a businessman, an environmental activist, and tourists who have been held illegally in Iranian prisons for years. Whatever happened to do not negotiate with terrorists? Because now, every bad country around the world knows that all they have to do is hold American citizens hostage, and we will pay them $6 billion. To emphasize this point, on Friday, the U.S. State Department issued a worldwide travel warning for all Americans, stating, due to increased tensions in various locations around the world, the potential for terrorist attacks, demonstrations, or violent actions against U.S. citizens and interests, the Department of State advises U.S. citizens overseas to exercise increased caution. It is no longer safe for Americans to travel. Not only that, the deal to give $6 billion to Iran was announced on September 11th. So Joe Biden is giving $6 billion to the largest state sponsor of terrorism on the anniversary of the largest terrorist attack on U.S. soil. What is going on? Now, the White House claims that they have reached a new agreement with Qatar. Qatar is saying that they will temporarily not allow Iran to withdraw any of the money. The White House also claims that when the money is withdrawn, that they can review each transaction to make sure the money is only spent on humanitarian aid. What? Are they aware how money works? If you have a budget of $1,000 and I offer to give you $500 to cover food expenses, that only frees up the rest of your money to use however you want. Iranian President Ibrahim Raisi has already said this money belongs to the Iranian people, the Iranian government, so the Islamic Republic of Iran will decide what to do with this money. Apparently, they're deciding to spend it on terrorism. Let's look at the timeline. The Wall Street Journal reported that Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps has worked with Hamas since August to plan the attack on Israel. They met in Beirut on the Monday before the attack to give the green light. What this means is that they were planning this attack while negotiating with the U.S. to give them $6 billion. They started planning the attack in August. Joe Biden agreed to the $6 billion in September, and Hamas attacked Israel in October. And Iran is showing no indication of stopping. Just last Sunday, Hamas and Iran leaders met in Qatar and agreed to continue cooperation. Okay, so knowing all that information, let us go back to Joe Biden's statement. There are American citizens being held hostage right now in Gaza, and Joe Biden says he is doing everything in his power to get them back. Really? Everything in his power? How about permanently freezing Iran's $6 billion? How about stopping giving money to Palestine? These are things he could do today. It doesn't seem to me like he's doing everything in his power. It seems to me like this is a lie. But it gets worse. This week, Joe Biden visited Israel to meet with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Now, Joe Biden claims the meeting is to show U.S. support for Israel. But at the same time, he used the meeting to pressure Netanyahu to allow the U.S. to send more aid to Palestine. The same people who are currently holding Americans hostage. In fact, on Wednesday, Joe Biden announced that he is giving an additional $100 million in humanitarian aid to Palestine. What? When I saw this, I had to read it a few times to make sure I got it right. Joe Biden is giving Palestine $100 million for no release of American hostages. Does this guy know how to negotiate? Because it doesn't seem like it. Now, I know that some people will argue that there is a difference between Palestine and Hamas. You people need to grow up. Hamas controls the Gaza Strip. In the charter for Hamas, it says that their goal is the annihilation of Israel. It also says the day of judgment will not come about until Muslims fight Jews and kill them. These are not people who want peace or a two-state solution. They only want a one-state solution themselves. Any aid to Palestine is only helping Hamas. It is the same thing as giving billions of dollars to Iran and thinking that it will somehow not fund an increase in terrorism. It is foolish. Let me show you something. Here's an image of the Muslim world. You have all these different countries around the region with Israel in the middle. Do you know how many of these countries are offering to take in Palestine refugees? None. Not a single country. They don't want to take in radicalized, violent extremists. Let me just share from my own personal experience. I have known many people who are from the Middle East who are Muslim, and everyone I have met have been wonderful people. Smart, generous, happy, creative, dedicated to their families. Most people from the Middle East are not violent extremists. But Palestine has become a breeding ground for Hamas, and other countries don't want them either. Not a single other Middle East country has offered to take in refugees. Why is this America's problem? Why are we paying for this? But it gets worse. And this one really makes my head hurt. Not only is Joe Biden giving aid to Palestine, he is charging Americans to be evacuated. There are thousands of Americans still trapped in Israel. The U.S. has offered to evacuate them to safety, but only if they pay their own airfare. What? So the Palestinians are getting financial assistance, but Joe Biden is making the American citizens in Israel pay. Now, do I think that Joe Biden is anti-Semitic? Actually, no, I don't. I think he genuinely likes the Jewish people, but I think he is compromised by China. He is currently under an impeachment inquiry in Congress over his family's foreign business dealings. Now, whether or not you think that he should be impeached for treason, you have to admit that the evidence shows he's compromised. His family has taken millions of dollars from the Chinese Communist Party. That is important because guess where Iran exports most of their oil? China. Iran sends China 1.5 million barrels of oil per day. That is $3.3 billion per month of trade between Iran and China. No wonder Joe Biden is going easy on Iran. He probably wants to make sure he can get his 10% for the big guy. Here's the crazy part. In the 60 Minutes interview, they address the issue with Iran. The interviewer asks, "Is Iran behind the Gaza war?" Joe Biden responds, "There is no clear evidence of that." What? What about all the evidence I just laid out? Iran is funding Hamas. Iran military leaders are meeting with Hamas. And Joe Biden is saying there is no evidence? Why is he covering up Iran's involvement? Why does he keep lying to everyone? But setting the money aside for a moment, there are other things that Joe Biden could be doing. Something that has shocked me, as well as a lot of other Americans, are the anti-Israel protests on college campuses. At Harvard, a joint student group said Israel was entirely responsible for the war. A student group called the Students for Justice in Palestine said the attacks against Israel were a historic win for the Palestinian resistance. These statements are horrific. Let's just recap what happened. Hamas attacked civilian neighborhoods. They killed 260 people at a music festival. These are not soldiers. They killed civilians. Imagine your own neighborhood. What if armed terrorists just showed up one day and started shooting, raping, and kidnapping people? For these college students to claim that these actions are justified is really disgusting. Now, if you watch my channel, you know I'm a huge advocate for freedom of speech. If you want to say disgusting things, it's your right to do so. If you want to oppose Israel, it's your freedom to speak your mind, but it is also my freedom to call you out for it. What Hamas has done in Palestine is terrorism, and it is wrong. I don't care what country is doing it. If you're attacking civilian neighborhoods, you should be condemned. Hamas slaughtered people at a music festival. I don't understand how anyone can support that. And just because you have freedom of speech does not mean that we have to pay for it. These colleges are promoting these anti-Semitic views, and it is wrong. These colleges are also funded by taxpayer dollars. So you are paying taxes, it's going to these schools who are then promoting hate against Israel. That's not right. And Joe Biden is going on TV and saying that he is doing everything in his power to resolve this situation. If that was true, he should immediately shut down any government funding to any school in the US that is promoting anti-Semitism. In fact, do you remember that Trump issued an executive order in 2019 prohibiting anti-Semitism on US campuses? When he signed the executive order, he said this: "This is our message to universities. If you want to accept the tremendous amount of federal dollars that you get every year, you must reject anti-Semitism. It's very simple." Now contrast this with Joe Biden's approach. Joe Biden issued his own policy document against anti-Semitism in May 2023. But if you look at the document he released, he actually redefines the definition of anti-Semitism. I didn't know you could do that. Can you just redefine anti-Semitism? Apparently, Joe Biden's new definition excludes any mention of the creation of Israel. This just happened 6 months ago. Let us be clear about this. Attacking Jews is no longer considered anti-Semitism as long as it is within the context of the conflict in Israel. It is Joe Biden's weakened definition that allows all of these new protests against the Jewish people on college campuses. Something I really don't understand is I saw this protest sign that says "Queers for Palestine." Really? I'm so confused by this. Do these people even understand what is going on? It is illegal to be gay in Palestine, punishable by 10 years in prison. How can you support both gay rights and Palestine? In fact, the only Palestinian member of Congress, Democrat Rashida Tlaib from Michigan, has a Palestinian flag displayed outside her office. You can see the Palestinian flag, and then right next to it, the gay flag. How does that make any sense? I think we should give a free plane ticket to Palestine for anyone protesting for Queers for Palestine and see how they like living over there. Next, we get to the worst part of the interview. Joe Biden is asked, does the dysfunction that we've seen in Congress increase the danger in the world? He responds, yes. This is not your father's Republican Party. 30% of it is made up of these MAGA Republicans who are maybe democracy is something. They don't look at it the same way you or I look at democracy. What? So Joe Biden is blaming all the chaos going on in the world on MAGA Republicans? Isn't it more likely that the problem is Joe Biden's horrible foreign policy? Could the problem be maybe the $6 billion he gave to Iran? But no, Joe Biden blames 30% of the Republican Party and accuses them of not believing in democracy. Wait a minute. Isn't that exactly what democracy is supposed to be? If someone does not agree with your horrible foreign policy decisions, they have a right to have a different opinion. Maybe, just maybe, MAGA Republicans are right on this issue. Maybe the MAGA Republicans are not the problem. Maybe Joe Biden is the problem. Let us do a quick comparison here. Joe Biden does a prisoner exchange with Iran where he gives them $6 billion for 5 American prisoners. Do you remember that Trump also did a prisoner exchange with Iran when he was president? Do you remember how much money he gave them? $0. That's right. Trump got 4 American prisoners released for $0. When Trump was president, he brokered the Abraham Accords, which was the greatest steps towards peace in the Middle East that we have ever seen. When Trump visited Saudi Arabia, he was honored with a ceremonial sword dance. Do you remember what Joe Biden got when he visited Saudi Arabia? A fist bump. A fist bump! And before you say that the fist bump was because of COVID, you should know that Joe Biden had just arrived from a meeting with none other than the president of Palestine, where he shook his hand. Joe Biden's Middle East policy is a disaster. And no, it is not because of MAGA Republicans. It is because of Joe Biden. He is the problem. Can I just say something here? I'm starting to like the catchphrase more and more, to make America great again. Why would anyone be against that? Shouldn't everyone want America to be great again? Joe Biden is fighting so hard against MAGA. I don't understand. Does he not want America to be great? So in summary, after watching Joe Biden's interview and reviewing all the information, I have to say that Joe Biden is lying to the American people about Israel. If he's going to screw over Israel, at least be honest with us. Don't lie to our face. We can see what you're doing. It is obvious that he is not doing everything in his power to resolve the situation. Joe Biden is not even coming close. Why is this all important? In a Pew Research poll in 2020, the Jewish community is one of the most consistent groups to vote Democrat in the U.S. 7 out of 10 Jewish adults identify with the Democrat Party. That's a massive majority. I have to ask the Jewish community, what are you doing? Your country is under attack. People are dying, and Joe Biden is lying to you. On Thursday, Joe Biden gave a televised address to the nation. In his speech, he repeated all the same lies from the interview on Sunday. He even said again, he's going to do everything in his power to rescue the hostages. Really? Because that is not what I see. Joe Biden is giving money to Palestine without any release of American hostages, and then is charging Americans who want to be evacuated. How are you not outraged about this? Why is Joe Biden not addressing a single issue I have brought up in this video? It is like Joe Biden is just repeating the lies and hoping that nobody notices. Well, I hope that the people in the Jewish community wake up before it is too late. Now I want to hear from you. Do you know why 60 Minutes won't ask Joe Biden any tough questions? Go ahead and leave your comments down below. And if you like this video, don't forget to hit that subscribe button to make sure that you don't miss any future videos. And also, thank you to everyone who has signed up for a membership. Like I said before, I'm a small channel and I do everything myself. If you find these videos helpful, consider signing up for a monthly membership on my website, wolvesandfinance.com. For $6 a month, your membership helps to keep this channel going, so big thank you to everyone who has joined. I'm Zach from Wolves and Finance. Thank you for watching.